Hey guys, Petunia here. Today I want to talk about the problems with Resto Shaman and PvP. Now we're specifically going to be talking about the arena side of things and RBGs and blitzes. I should do like my Resto Shaman a bit more, but there are still some problems that bleed into the whole scene that have been existent for many years now. In terms of solutions, I mean, I'm not the best arena player. I'm not the best, Resto Shaman player, much like the better names that you know and love. So this is mostly just going to be an awareness type video, just like I did with Holy Priest a couple days ago. So I guess the first issue I kind of want to talk about is the healing. The healing is struggling for Resto Shaman. It just feels like you're behind the whole game on healing, and because of that, because your healing is not strong enough, you can't really utilize that really nice toolkit that you have as Resto Shaman. You know, the lassos, the hexes, the purges, the interrupts. You can still use them, obviously. It's not like you just are never able to interrupt a purge. That's not the case. It's that the consistent amount that you want to do it is very minimal now. And in terms of healing, I mean, it feels like with how much the game changes every season, every single patch, every expansion, it feels like every healer needs to have every box checked off before the seasons go live. And if you're wondering what the boxes are in terms of raw healing, it's consistency, spread healing, and burst healing. If you don't have all three checked off, you're just going to struggle. And that's really where all the struggling healers kind of group up with the same issues, is that they just don't have the numbers. They don't have consistency, they don't have spread healing, they don't have the throughput. Some have two, some have one, some have all three. And you'll kind of see where each one stands. Holy Paladin is a great example. For a long time, since Legion throughout now, they've kind of tried to strip away the identity of Holy Paladin, kind of nerfing the burst identity for Avenging Wrath, and mildly, quote unquote, mildly amping up the consistent healing. Never worked, never really worked at all, and then finally, right now, because Holy Paladin is much greater, they find a balance between the consistent healing, the burst healing, and the spread healing. The spread healing through the Dawn Lights and having heal over times, the consistent healing through just having your Holy Lights do something, having your Eternal Flames or Wogs, really impactful, and the burst healing with just those Blessing and Banshee Holy Shocks with the kind of with the whole buffing your Holy Shocks, your Word of Glory, and your Holy Light, just all kind of coming together. You can finally have a really good balance with Holy Paladin, and Holy Paladin's great right now, which is awesome. But I feel like that kind of same balancing needs to happen for the other healers. It needs to happen for Resto Shaman. It needs to happen for our Druid. It needs to happen for Holy Priest. It needs to happen for Mistweaver. And these other healers that again are struggling have all those same issues. They just don't have all the boxes checked out. Now for Resto Shaman specifically, I mean, you have two boxes checked out. You have spread healing, because that's really what Resto Shaman, that's the identity of Resto Shaman, is spread healing. You have consistency, and by that I just mean you're spamming Riptides. And that's not really good consistency, because the minute you stop pressing Riptide, your team starts dying. Your team starts dying. They go from 80% to 30% in a matter of seconds when you stop spamming Riptide, which makes it harder to again find the purge windows, find the stun windows, find the hex windows, find the the static fields, and so it's really unfortunate when you have such a great toolkit, especially with how Blizzard really wanted to kind of switch up things for healers, not make them just heal bots the whole game, really make them able and influence the outcome of the game, really make them a part of these go windows. It sucks when other healers can do that better than you, and that kind of bleeds into our next topic, which is the offense. Again, Dragonfly, they really wanted to make healers much more offense capable. Again, have an influence in the game instead of just sitting back and healing the whole time. They did the same thing for every healers, some bigger, some smaller. Presvokers, they made Presvokers a bit more bursty when it comes to their offense. They also gave them stuff like a pressing roar and stuns. Disc Priest is obviously the same. I'm glad they actually tuned up Disc Priest, because it feels like for a while it's the same thing with the Holy Paladin. They try to strip away the identity of Disc Priest, but now they're kind of bringing it back and really making it much more flavorful with having the amount of damage that Disc Priests have. Resto Shaman, they tried to kind of amp up the offense by having the Greater Purge, adding in the Lasso, adding in the Static Field Totem, which obviously was in Shadowlands, but Shadowlands sucked, and you didn't have Totem of Rejection, which makes Static Field Totem that much more viable. For Holy Paladin, your damage is much more passive now. The Dawn Lights, the Sun's Avatars, the big Holy Shocks, the Judgments, weaving them into your rotation. Resto Druid having some form of burst window through your incarnation, whether it's your proc incarnation or your actual on use incarnation. You have some bit of damage to work in there. Now, of course, some of these healers that I'm mentioning are very weak and lackluster and aren't able to get that offense off. I'm just kind of using these as a comparison. Resto Shaman, in terms of offense, doesn't really have a lot. It has more of the kind of utility-based offense with static field totems. Sometimes offensive grounding totems just to get hexes and your lightning lassos off. But in terms of damage, which is really important for healers nowadays, it's just really unfortunate. You really don't have that much damage. Some healers can get away with not really doing that much damage, and that was Resto Shaman for a while. You could get away for not really doing that much damage, but having, again, these really high moments in the game, the static field totem, group up, or LOS plays on top of the capacitator totem. Like I said, the offensive groundings into the lassos and whatnot, you could get away with not doing as much damage, but with how much defense these DPS are getting, I mean, Dark Ranger, Hunters, Feral Druids, and Feral Druids are kind of like the same. Actually, no, Feral Druids actually have a bit more defense now, which is kind of awkward again with the whole, their whole Wildstalker trees. But yeah, with how much defense these DPS keep on getting, I mean, mages, the amount of mobility they keep on getting as well, it's really more impactful for these DPS, or for these healers, sorry, to have this type of offense. And Resto Shaman doesn't have that damage. I mean, I don't know why they keep on adding charges to Lava Burst as if I'm actually going to be able to dump out 3 charges of Lava Burst. Hell, there's sometimes I can't even get out a Flame Shock to get some Lava Surges in there. So I really wish they could kind of amp the offense of Resto Shaman with, again, implementing Lightning Bolt into the mix. I mean, the removal of Stormkeeper was something I never really understood, because I actually really liked Stormkeeper, even if I never played it that much. I mean, it was nice just having this every 1 minute. I could just zap someone, hit him with like an 800k Lightning Bolt in Dragonflight. It was pretty nasty, so I really wish we can find some form of work into Lava Burst, into the Lightning Bolts. Hell, maybe even make Chain Lightning available, maybe make Frost Shock baseline, because that was kind of the one thing. I think in Shadowlands, Resto Shamans had Frost Shock as well. So having a slow as a healer was definitely something that was pretty amazing. So either one or the other is kind of something I'm looking for. I mean, simply just increasing the damage of Lava Burst also wouldn't be too bad. They kind of do that over time, amp the damage of Lava Burst by like 15-10%, which is nice, but it's not even actually the damage of Lava Burst. It's not even be able to get Lava Burst off, which is the real problem. So kind of reworking the way Resto Shaman can get their damage off would be pretty nice, because they have a nice offensive toolkit, but again, it's just not being able to put up numbers on the board is really a kind of big issue. Your cooldowns as Resto Shaman have been, this isn't like a super big problem, but it is something that I kind of want to mention. Your cooldowns as Resto Shaman never really felt too impactful. I mean, Spirit Link is one of the biggest jokes in all creation. Ascendance is, I'll talk about Ascendance and Healing Tide. I mean, from Dragonflight Season 4 to now, Healing Tide has like the worst downgrade ever. I don't really know what it is. Maybe it's just because I'm not having that much mastery anymore. Sure, it's Season 1, your stats are going to be all bugged out, but that can't be the only reason. That can't be the main reason for why some classes excel over others. If it's simply just that, then they need to not make stat squishes that impactful. But yeah, Healing Tide from Dragonflight Season 4 to now just is like completely weak. I feel like every single time I press Healing Tide, even with Tide Turner, it just does nothing. They don't even have to kill my Healing Tide for me to notice if my Healing Tide is actually up or not up, because my team's HP doesn't go up whether Healing Tide is down or not. That's the issue. So I don't know if they need to buff the healing of Healing Tide, maybe make it tick faster. I'm not too sure, because Healing Tide just doesn't feel like it does anything. Spirit Link Totem is one of the biggest jokes of all creation. I mean, there's so many counters to this. And I get counters, I can understand counters, but when it's that detrimental to the point where the cooldown doesn't even work, that's where problems happen. I mean, Spirit Link, like, you only use Spirit Link for like the 0.1 second that it's out to immediately redistribute everyone's HP. Other than that, it's completely useless. Like, the whole 6 seconds never is going to get any value. The minute it gets placed down, if you're not in it in that 0.1 second, if someone's out of the Spirit Link totem and misses it by a 0.2 second, it's gone. It's dead. It's over. So I don't know what they need to do Spirit Link. I mean, maybe they can rework it. There used to be an honor talent that used to kind of remove Spirit Link Totem and actually make it so it would redistribute the HP of your 2 closest allies instead. And that talent kind of wasn't that great, so I really wish they can kind of implement that and rework or redesign it in some way, or simply just redesign Spirit Link in total, because it's just completely bad. I mean, this is just this is just a joke. You know, maybe have some, you know, because again, I wanted to have the redistribution factor because there's really nothing you can do to kind of change Spirit Link. At least change the way it activates. At least change, you know, if it's a totem or if it's an actual proximity-based spell. Because the only way you can change this is like making it too similar to Life Swap or Priest, and that would be, again, that's too similar. So changing Spirit Link, the way it activates and the way it redistributes health, the proximity of it, maybe making it not a totem, would be kind of the path I'm looking for. And Ascendance, I mean, Ascendance is like, it's so funny because I like getting Ascendance procs. I just don't like pressing Ascendance as an actual cooldown. That's kind of where I'm going at. Ascendance is good for a proc. It just doesn't seem good for an actual cooldown. So I really wish they kind of had a talent. So there actually used to be a talent, pretty sure. It was like Oathseeker or something, where it was literally just a combination of these two talents. So it reduced the cooldown of Ascendance by 45 seconds, and then gave you 8% haste while Ascendance was active. So I really wish that was legit just here, instead of having two separate talents, because they're both pretty decent. Preeminence is good for the Ascendance procs, but just not having something to press, which, I mean, again, all your cooldowns are 3 minutes. All your real cooldowns are 3-minute cooldowns. Spirit Link Totem, Healing Tide Totem, and Ascendance. So not having something that's on a 2-minute cooldown, having something that's consistently active, is just the worst thing that a healer can have in terms of cooldown management. Ascendance, I really wish Ascendance kind of had a bit of a makeover. They tried to, you know, implement some stuff with, again, having it do instant healing once you pop Ascendance, but it just doesn't. They nerfed the duplication of Ascendance from 80% to 70%, which is kind of, I felt that for a while. So, again, just simply reverting that nerf from 70% to 80% could be something nice. Bringing up the healing of it from the actual instant healing maybe could be a bit decent. The duration, I'm not too sure, but just feel like Ascendance as an actual cooldown just doesn't really feel that great compared to just getting a proc Ascendance. So ground effects are a pretty major thing. When you're talking about ground effects, I'm talking about stuff like Spirit Link, Earthenwall Totem, and Healing Rain. So having these ground effects is kind of interesting when it comes to a lot of healers. The only healers that have like ground-based abilities are like Resto Druid with Efflorescence, powered barrier for Dispriest, and then that's pretty much it for ground effects for at least healers. At least that's all I can think of at the top of my head. And some of them are fine, but for Resto Shaman, it's just the worst thing ever. I mean, Earthenwall Totem, here's the thing. Earthenwall Totem, if you really want to know where Earthenwall Totem should be in your breakdown, in terms of, like, you know, on paper, theoretically, Earthenwall Totem should be in the top healing. Like, when Earthenwall Totem is in my top breakdown, it's legit when my team is actually standing in it. That's pretty crazy. The reason why Earthenwall Totem is never in your top breakdown, or kind of like always near the bottom or like in the middle ground, is because your team's not standing in it. And even if you're playing with people that you know and trust and love, no one's ever going to stand in Earthenwall Totem, which is like unfortunate, because Earthenwall Totem is like one of the best, probably is the best 1 minute cooldown of all healers. It is the best 1 minute cooldown of all healers. I should stop sugarcoating it. It is the best 1 minute cooldown for all healers. But having in solo shuffle, no one stands in it. Your teammates that you know and love and play with never stand in it. Whether they're melee, whether they're casters, they just never stand in it. Even if I tell them so many times, stand in my Earthenwall Totem, they just don't stand in it because they're idiots. Even if I can place it down, I can move it, it just doesn't work. And the difference between Resto Shaman and you know, other healers is that these are like more so rotational cooldowns. These are rotational spells. Like Healing Rain, I would love a lot more, but as a rotational healing spell that's a ground effect is just the worst thing ever. I mean, I really wish Healing Rain was redesigned, because the difference between Healing Rain and Efflorescence is that Efflorescence, A, doesn't really cost that much mana, and B, doesn't have a cooldown. So you can place it wherever you want, whenever you want. Healing Rain is a rotational healing spell, especially as a totemic, but if your team, that's why it's only good in maps where your team can legit, it's physically impossible for them to move out of it. So that is either carts in Subcharged Mines or Eye of the Storm. I really wish Healing Rain was designed to, like, I don't know, be placed, if you could actually place it on a target, and it would just follow that target. So this target, whoever you target, whether it's your melee, whether it's whoever target, you cast Healing Rain on, it'll just follow them. So they'll have like this 11-yard radius Healing Rain that just follows them. So at least that, because I don't really know any other way to kind of make Healing Rain better, because that's really what screws it over. Is that it's just a ground effect type spell, a rotational ground effect spell, which just sucks, because it's only really viable even if you're facing, like, even if you're playing a caster cleave, or you're playing against another melee cleave. Somehow, some way, people always find a way to just run out your healing range, run out your Earthenwall Totem. So if they redesigned, I mean, Earthenwall Totem, I don't really know what they need to do to change it, because Earthenwall Totem, if you don't know, I have like this conspiracy theory of healers have a certain type of spell that is kind of unique to them, or kind of gives them their identity, that is the sole reason why they don't get the attention they deserve, the consistent tunings that they deserve. And for Resto Shaman, I believe that's Earthenwall Totem. For Holy Priest, that's Spirit of Redeemer. For Holy Paladin, that's Blessed Hands. For Mistweaver, it's Peace Weaver. It's those spells that kind of are like so good that they always try and work around it. I don't care. If you were to nerf Earthenwall Totem to actually buff our other healing, I wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. But they don't want to do that, because it's just so good and it's such a good identity to the class. If they were to just simply nerf the duration of Earthenwall Totem, because Earthenwall Totem is so good, it's a 1 minute cooldown. It's the best 1 minute cooldown a healer could ever ask for. If they were to nerf this by like nerf the duration of it, nerf the, instead of 18 seconds, have it last like 8 seconds or whatever. Because that's the reason why it's so painful that my team runs out of it, because it lasts so long. So when they're constantly moving out of it, it's like this, the reality of the actual 18 seconds of our Earthenwall Totem actually being used, it's only about 3 seconds of our Earthenwall Totems actually being used, because they're constantly running out of it. So if it was just 8 seconds, 8-second duration with like a minute cooldown, I wouldn't really be that mad, because if they have to move out of it, they have to move out of it. But it's like, it's down at the ground for 18 seconds, and they're constantly moving out of it for whatever fucking reason. Whether it's to put CC on the healer, to kite, I don't know. So if they just nerf the duration of Earthenwall Totem, or something, redid Earthenwall Totem or whatever, to kind of make it so we can actually have consistent tunings for our Healing Surge, for our Healing Wave, for our Riptides, for Healing Stream Totem, great, that'd be awesome. But it's not the case. But going back to ground effects, I mean, again, having your team trying to stand in all these, in all your Surging Totems and all your Earthenwall Totems is just the most difficult thing to achieve. Lack of honor talents, I mean, honestly, I really wish we kind of went back to like Legion style honor talents, because at least Legion style honor talents, you weren't actually locked into anything. You actually had a bit more flexibility. So the only reason why you were locked into certain talents is because the other two options were just complete dog crap. But yeah, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I know it's a very unpopular opinion, but I really wish you just went back to the Cataclysm style talents, because at least then the talents were actually unique and awesome. You were very flexible with the talents, compared to right now where all this stuff was legit just in our spell book passively. So unpopular opinion, but yeah, honor talents just feel like really weak. First off, you don't even have that many to choose from, and really the only ones that are accessible are just really weak. I really wish they kind of redid the whole honor talent system for every single healer and every single class, because it's the same case of just having two that are just really much more impactful and one free one, especially if you have multiple, like almost 10 plus or 10 plus honor talents available, and you can only really choose you only actually have one free slot out of the 10 or 12 that you have. It's really unfortunate. So I mean, honor talents, Totem of Wrath, if anything, Skyfury Totem itself really just didn't feel that great, because it just got killed instantly. That's the whole issue with Resto Shaman. Totems die instantly. So Totem of Wrath is kind of whatever. Counter-Strike Totem, I really wish this kind of was redone to work like Thorns or something like that, because right now it's just completely weak. It's completely useless. Again, it's called the Idiot check for a reason, because if you're an idiot, this has value. Electrocute, if they simply just buff this again, I'm pretty sure in beta they buffed this by like 100 something percent, but it's just not enough. If they actually made it do a lot of damage, buff this really high, another 100% or whatever, I'd actually run this. It would actually make it so like, okay, I'm gonna risk my team dying by not spamming Riptide to go for a greater purge, and honestly that's pretty valuable, because I'm going to be purging the enemy. I'm also going to get some good damage out of it, so it actually make finding the purge windows much more accessible and easy. Rain Dance, obviously that's for healing rain. Unleash Shield is just complete garbage. Like Unleash Shield, I don't know why this is even in the game. It's just so bad. The radius of Water Shield is legit like the size of a penny. The Earth Shield route going from 4 seconds to 2 seconds is really kind of what's sold it. But now that's 2 seconds, is complete garbage, and you don't even use Lightning Shield, which honestly kind of brings me to a next topic. I really wish they would integrate Lightning Shield, because the only reason why Lightning Shield is available for Resto Shaman currently is legit so this talent can actually be existent. If Lightning Shield was gone, this talent wouldn't even be here. But yeah, I really wish Lightning Shield had been more impact. Maybe it could do a good bit of damage, so you can actually run it into like melee cleaves. If you're going to be the target, you're going to get some bit of damage out of it, and maybe some bit of impact. Maybe, again, by taking damage, it'll buff the damage of your lightning bolts, so you can actually weave in some offense as a Resto Shaman if you're being focused. I don't know. But yeah, Burrow, I mean, Burrow's good. But yeah, it's just honor talents are just so strict into what you need to play, and there's really no flexibility between them, which is kind of really the issue here. Dispel Protection, specifically with Urshield, is really the really kind of a hurtful topic. I mean, with how much purges DPS get and healers get as well, and how much you can actually amplify those purges. So, for example, purge with greater purge. You know, spam Dispel from priests, spam Spell Steal with Kleptomania, Trank Darts with the amplified Trank Darts, like, you know, DHs with Blood Moon. Sure, DHs aren't really that great, but I'm just using these as a comparison. Dispelling Urshield is really the worst thing ever. Dispelling Riptides also sucks, because especially during your Nature Subject window, especially as a Farseer, it's just like, okay, rip off all my hots. Okay, I gotta reapply my Riptides. Gotta reapply my Urshield. Gotta go into my 50 million globals of Primordial Wave, NS, Unleash Life into Healing Wave. If you're a Totemic, you gotta place your Surgery Totem down. Make sure you have your Whirling Elements buff. Primordial Wave, NS, Healing, you know, Unleash Life. It's like so many globals to go for, especially if you get Dispelled and Purged and all your stuff. It's even more globals, so I really wish maybe it was an honor talent, maybe it was through reactive warding that would actually make it so you could you had some Dispel Protection on Urshield. So whether it's through a harmful effect or maybe it's maybe through some beneficial effect, I'm not too sure. Maybe if you try and maybe if you purge Urshield, it'll like root you or knock you down or something. That's kind of what I usually think of when I think of Earth type spells, knockdowns of roots. If you purge it, or you know, maybe a helpful effect. If you purge it, dispel it, whatever. It could actually give that Urshield target an absorb shield, or maybe just make it work the reactive warding. If you dispel Urshield, maybe make it so it'll give you the reactive warding value, but at like 50% reduced effectiveness. I'm not too sure, but just having some form of Dispel Protection. Every healer needs to have some form of Dispel Protection. That's just the reality of it. With how much purges every DPS has, every healer should have some form of Dispel Protection on a certain spell. Maybe not all your spells, but on some spell you should have Dispel Protection. Like if you dispel Life Blooms, it's really what you want to get when you're fighting a Resto Druid, is dispel those Life Blooms. If you dispel Life Blooms, like you'll have some form of backlash or some form of beneficial effect. And you do have that through Reactive Raisin, but like who really cares about Reactive Raisin? Like getting Rooted in Silence, who cares about that garbage? So I really wish every healer had Dispel Protection. Mystery Reavers have a Dispel Protection through a certain talent. Dome of Mist, which is actually I think going to be passive now for the next patch, and then Holy Paladins don't have any Dispel Protection, which I mean, against Bops and Freedoms, I really wish they had some form of Dispel Protection for those two. Maybe make it so if they dispel Blessing of Protection, you would get some damage reduction or some bit of something. Not too sure. For Preservation Evokers, I don't believe they have any Dispel Protection on the Dream Breath or Reversion, so maybe something from that. But yeah, I think every healer needs to have some way to combat these purges, because it's just brutal. I mean, that's the worst thing I hear in Arena, is hearing the Priest Dispel and hearing the Spell Steal from Mages. It's just the worst thing ever. And that's really all I kind of want to talk about, is just that's really it. The damage of Resto Shaman, the healing of Resto Shaman. Totemic Mana is also pretty rough with the healing rains and whatnot, but in general, that's kind of what I really wanted to talk about Resto Shaman. Resto Shaman has a lot of issues, and I really don't like it when healers or when Blizzard doesn't really look at the core issues that all these healers have, and instead kind of paint it over with like a 15% increase to their healing surge and healing wave, which is good. It's nice. It's sometimes it can make the healer a lot better in the meta. For example, Holy Paladin, like I mean, they have a lot of core issues. I mean, having your two your two defensives, which is Bop, be purgeable, having a freedom be purgeable it sucks, but they painted that over with having 15% increased healing to their Holy Light, to their Word of Glory and their Holy Shock, and then 20% to their Holy Light. Great. So what happens when that gets nerfed? Is Holy Paladin's going to go back into the dumps where it usually stays. So I really wish they kind of looked at the core issues of these healers and worked on fixing that instead of just painting these percent buffs over, because what happens when that gets taken away? You're gonna have the same issue. So remove Blessed Hands for Holy Paladin to actually clean up some of the issues of it. Nerf the Wall Totem for Resto Shaman and actually fix the rotational and burst healing of Resto Shaman, and you know, we can call that a day. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next live. All right, peace.